In addition to the poetry we learn, there's lots of fun poetry activities that we do. Today, at the beginning of the literacy lesson, I read and shared a poem, and we talked about the poem, and it had the last stanza missing. And one activity, for example, is to ask the children to think about what that last stanza could be, or getting them to finish a last line. That putting themselves in the role of the poet and the choices made by the poet makes them feel more like poets themselves. We quite often write poetry in class in response to a novel we're reading or a book we're reading. And that works really well when writing in role. So quite often we'll start by perhaps hot seating the main character, and the children all start to imagine themselves in a different perspective. And as soon as you get children writing in role, it somehow frees them up.
Also, getting children to write poems using language that they've found in other things. So if you're reading a story, you can ask the children to lift bits out of the story and use that as part of or all of a poem. And writing collaborative poems so that they work in a group and each person writes a line or each person writes a verse, and then they put them together and then collaboratively edit them. And that's especially good for less confident children, I think, because it allows them to be part of the process.
The problem with poetry is that it can make children feel too much like they've got to fit to a structure, a rhyme, rhythm, pattern, stanza length structure. So they have to have the ideas first. And we always start with the words and the language and the images first. And then we'll teach them poetic structures like alliteration, simile, metaphor, adjectives along the way. It's like tools they pick up to enhance their poem rather than sitting down and starting with writing a simile.
I think it's really helpful for children to hear other children reading their poems and talking about what they like about them. And sometimes I find that it's useful to do that during the writing process as well as after the writing process, so that children who maybe are a bit stuck can hear what some other people have done so far.
A really important part of encouraging children to enjoy poetry is making them feel that what they write is owned by them. The best poems that the children write are the ones where the images and the ideas are from the children's experience, the times when they're tucked up in bed at night, or that moment when they finally aced division. Bringing those moments in, even when they're writing in role as a different character, that's what brings their poems alive.